Hi everyone, and welcome to this short presentation of easyCMS. So what is easyCMS? easyCMS is a content management software that allows you to remotely manage the content of a display. And so this is the core of digital signage system. And so what it allows you to do is to upload images, videos, data, anything to a remote display in some locations away from you and from your office. So let's jump into it. So first of all, we will just log in with our credentials. So every user has its credentials that allows him to manage his own set of display. So I will log in. And here, I will just move my camera. And here, so we have the menu on the left, and here we have the dashboard, the first menu when we open the software. And I can have some information, which, for example, is the number of displays I can manage, the size of my library, the number of users I manage, what is my library made of, so mostly videos and images, the bandwidth usage, so what I used as megabytes for April, for example. And here, which is the most important, is the status of the display. So it is logged in and it is authorized and is green. It means that it has the latest data, the latest playlist is playing on this display. So on the left here we have several options on the menu. First one is a schedule to schedule content in the future. Departing, which is a part of the schedule system, which means that I can divide my day in several parts, or morning, afternoon, evening, lunch, for example, breakfast, and so it makes it easier to schedule for these events and these specific parts of the day. I have campaigns, layouts, and so campaigns simply is multiple layouts put together. And a layout is usually what you call a playlist, for example, but it's a bit more than that. A layout can be divided into regions, and so these regions can have their own playlist, and then it can become something a bit more complex. So, for example, you can have a video, time, and, for example, some kind of text next to it. So this is a layout, but it can as well be just a simple playlist, a full screen playlist of images and videos. So in my library, I have playlist, media, and datasets. So media, of course, is all the images, the videos, and all the content you want to upload, multimedia content. The playlist is simply a pre-made list of items. So, images, videos that I kind of, set in some order, and I can save this playlist and then use it for a layout, for example. And the datasets is a bit more complex. So datasets are usually specifically used to show informations from CSV file, Excel file, or pulled from some database, for example. So it can be timetables, for example, for buses, trains. It can be as well used for more simple things like showing whose birthday it is today. Special events, for example, showing on certain dates. Also, it can pull any types of data, and it's quite complex. And here's the displays. It will just show you, more information about your display. The status, is it on, off, when was the last time it connected, etc. And here I have reporting, which will tell me more about how many times this advertising was played, how much times and days the display was on or off. So this information. So to get started more into details, I will just go to the layouts, because the layout is something that we use the most. So here I just have two example layout. So the first layout is a simple layout. I will just show you what it is made of. So here I have, my user interface to create and manage my layouts. And here I have, a preview of the layout. And here I have my timeline. So, that shows me what are the items that are in this layout. I have here some tools that I can use and widgets that I can implement in this layout. And here I have access to my library if I want to add some images. So, for example, let's say I want to add here some image. So I will just browse my library, and I will just go to image. and show here, okay, what are the images, and select the image I want. So for example, I want to show some image from the gym. I will just click here and add to the region I want, which is this region here. So here is this in my new timeline. Here we go, I'll just close this. I can rearrange, of course, the order of this item in this timeline. So each timeline is for this specific region, and each region has its own timeline. So I will just back up, and here I can see that I added this image to this region. I could do the same for other regions, for example. And so it's very easy to manage, as you can see, and to add content. So of course, if you want to learn more about this, I will do more videos, more in details about these specific features, but here's just a quick introduction. So once my layout is set up and made, I just publish it, and it's ready to use for showing on any display I want. Of course, layouts can be composed of different things. I can show you another example, a bit more complex here, which is a layout that includes a RSS sticker for news and an embedded web page that contains information about the COVID-19 epidemic. And so of course I can preview it if I want to, and here I can actually see what is showing on the display, or what will show on the display. It's not actually a live preview, but it's a preview anyway. So these are layouts. So now I can show you the media library, and basically the media library is the repository of all my images, videos, and potentially PDF or PowerPoint file or any other file that I want to show. I can easily sort it by types of files. For example, if I just want to see videos, for example, I can just do that, and here I have my 2 videos. If I want to just show images, I can just show images, and it helps me to find what I'm looking for. And so if I just looking for the Coca-Cola ad, I could find it easily like this, but it's not an image, it is a video. So here we go. Here I have my Coca-Cola video. I have the duration, the size in megabytes, etc. So this is a basic library of media files. I can easily add media, of course, from my desktop here, and I can just show an example, for example, by adding this image, or maybe this image here, because I think the other one I already had. I upload it, and here we go. It is in my library. It should be the second page, and it was there. Here we go. So these are the information. I can show you as well the playlist. So the playlist is a timeline of items. So if I go here to timeline, I have actually the files I want to play, and so it's kind of making it faster to create a layout later. So I can have one playlist and use it for several layouts. So it's a very efficient way if you manage different contents and different display with different kind of layouts. You can actually, you don't have to you just have to replicate this playlist and just add it to the layout you want. So it's a pre-made playlist. It can be very time saving. And the datasets are a bit more complex. So the datasets is I can show you here in the edit. So datasets are basically pulling data, usually from CSV files, from Excel files, or from a remote source. So for example, you have different methods to actually do that. You can use URL and then some authentication if you need to, and you can select the type of data you are pulling from this URL, and have some options over here. So it's quite well done, and you can actually use that for more advanced use. For example, bus timetables or informations relating to your own business, for example. So that's very powerful. The displays menu is basically a list of all your display with more information. So the status, if it's logged in or not, it's connected to the internet or not, the times it was last accessed, the IP address if you're working on a local network, and the thumbnail actually of the current information. It's a live thumbnail of what is shown on the display. You can add columns if you want. So if you want to add some information, you can. If you want to know the resolution of the display, the profile and the version of the software playing, so you can add some information here. You can request a screenshot as well if you want to make sure that the screenshot you have is really the latest. So you can actually request that. So the timestamp is here, 1704, and it's 1704, so it's showing that is the latest information showing. And here, of course, you have the reporting. So the reporting is, display statistics, for example, which will show you the bandwidth used for this display and the time disconnected, for example. So it's interesting if you're using a 4G connection and a method connection, for example, that can be useful to know. If maybe some display will be more disconnected sometimes, and you can actually point them out more easily and say, okay, this display has got an issue, maybe I need to check the connections there. You have a proof of play. So the proof of play is allowing you to check if your advertisements were actually played correctly on the display, and or the data was showed correctly. And so this is really more useful for advertising agencies, for example. And you have the library usage here, which can be interesting for some people to know actually if you're using more images and more videos, for example. So we go up now to check the schedule. So once, of course, your layouts are made, and you need to schedule it, of course, to show it to on the display. And so here you have different methods of actually doing that. So the first simple method will simply be to add an event, select the display, say that you always want this layout to play, and then select the layout, for example, and then you save. And so you're adding this here. So every day, constantly, this layout will play. But you have, of course, different things you can do. For example, this one is a geolocation-based event. So I have my layout that I selected like I did previously. I always want it to be played, but I just want it to be played on some geolocations. So, for example, if the player on which it is used is connected to 4G, for example, and allows for data for location to be made, and then you can actually trigger some playlist at some locations. So, for example, here in this example, it's in London for this specific area. So if the bus, for example, is going around, this playlist will only play when it is in this area, for example. So this is, and we could say that, for example, the priority would be 1. So let's say that when the bus goes through this specific area, the only layout that would play would be the simple layout because it has a priority of 1, for example. And I will save. And as you can see, it's added here. It's like a little icon for the map. And so the schedule, is very important. Of course, you can schedule commands and campaigns and overlay layout. So of course, there are many different. You can do repeat some layouts daily or weekly or yearly, for example. And here you have the options to activate the geolocation. So it's very powerful. And of course, if you have questions, you can always leave a comment. So here we go. So this was a short introduction to easyCMS and what it can do for your digital signage. I hope it was informative. And if you have any questions, please just send me an email or just leave a comment below. Thank you very much for your time.